don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory, yeah.
I was thinking about this morning, okay? Validation. This is the topic. And the reason I want to go over this, now let me just say, I'm not a coach, a life skills coach by any means. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist, a counselor. I don't have any, expertise in any of those areas. I'm not a professional, and I'm not claiming or trying to be anyone's damn life coach or anything like that. I will always say, my videos are for educational purposes only, just sharing my perspective, my experience, personal stuff, knowledge and awareness, and that's that. Please always do your own research. Always. Double check everything you hear online or anywhere. Don't just listen to one person. Don't just take what one person says strictly to heart. Take in all sorts of information, study, research, make sure your sources are accurate. Go to scholarly sites, check everything, use credible sources. So I'll always say that to you guys, okay? But anyway, the way I feel about it is, we human beings, with our personal experiences and whatever, we all have different levels of knowledge in different areas. We all have different frames of reference to pull from our past, from our exposures and our experiences, or different things we've actually devoted ourselves to studying and, becoming rather knowledgeable about, a lot of us. So I think we can all share with each other. And there's no shame in not knowing something. There's no shame in asking questions. In fact, I think it makes a person far more intelligent to ask questions. And so with the topic of validation, real quickly, sometimes in life, things slip our mind. There are certain things that I don't even know, or I might know it in a very surface context. I might have a good idea of what it might be. But if I had to really break it down and explain it to another person and articulate that back, I may have trouble, okay? So it's always fine to ask questions. It doesn't make you look stupid. Don't ever get that in your head that, oh, well, I'm sure everybody else knows that. And if I ask them to explain it to me, I'm going to look dumb, or I'll be ashamed, or they will shame me, or they'll think I'm stupid, or no, don't do that, okay? I understand that feeling sometimes, but that in itself can be stupidity. Don't stay there. It is far more respectable, and it is far more intelligent to speak up and ask questions if you don't know what something is, or if you're not familiar with it, or if you understand it, but you really need it explained to you a little more in depth. Go ahead and ask. That's how we learn. In fact, I'm going to look at you crazy if you're not asking. People that don't ever ask questions really weird me out. Okay, they do. Because, especially in personal conversation, it just tells me, if I'm doing like all the listening and I'm asking them thoughtful questions and they don't ever ask me any, okay, that tells me a lot. It tells me they're not fucking interested. They just want to be heard, or they just want to use someone for constant emotional support, and they're not really interested in asking me anything or getting to know me, or maybe using me as some kind of receptacle for all of their stress and their stuff in their head. No, that stuff has to be equal. So anyway, it's perfectly fine to ask other people questions, something you're not familiar with, something you need someone to explain a little better, or because I feel like in this life, even things that we might be really knowledgeable about, or things that we were knowledgeable about at one time, we can forget those things. Yes, absolutely. We need refreshers and reminders throughout our lives. Just like experts or whatever, they go and take refresher courses in certain things to keep that knowledge. Okay, and I feel like that's how it is in this life for all of us. We need refreshers, we need reminders, and to me, if you have people in your life calling you to your own attention, if there's something going on with you and they're calling you that might be hurtful or self-destructive, or, you know, it's going to end up badly for you, or whatever the case is, if you have somebody in your damn family brave enough to call that to your attention or speak up to you about it and make you aware of it, call you to your own attention or give you that refresher or reminder, don't look down at them. Don't turn it around on them and be angry about it. That's love. That's something you should be very grateful for, because we need reminders and refreshers in this world of things that we've learned in childhood, things that we've learned in school. Yes, absolutely, man. And that's what the people around us that care for us, to me, that's what we are for. We are here to love each other, watch out for each other, take care of ourselves. And if we see something that needs to be brought to somebody's damn awareness, then we bring it to their awareness, and that's perfectly fine. And we ask questions when we are confused or we don't know what something is. Now, let's get on into validation. The other day, I saw a conversation online, and they were speaking on a certain topic, and one of the commenters said, what exactly is validation? Okay, so they wanted someone to explain that to them, and it got me to thinking, you know, not everything, people don't know everything, and not everything is as easy to understand as you would think. There are some subjects that I've heard the concept, I've heard the word used, I know that it exists, but if, like I said before, if I had to really try to break it down and explain the depths of it, I would need a fucking refresher course. So, you know, so anyway, this person asked, what is validation exactly? Explain it. And I thought, wow, okay, that is something really, really important to know, what validation actually is. And I don't remember, I didn't read any further, you know, but you should never give someone a hard time when they ask questions like that, unless they're being a smart ass and they're trying to manipulate you, or they're not really serious about learning it. But when someone asks you an intelligent question and they are being genuine and they want to know, then I think that's great. I think that's one of the most intelligent things a person could do for their own emotional and spiritual growth and betterment of themselves. So anyway, yeah, there are people that don't know. We don't know everything. There are just certain things that we need reminders, refreshers, and, you know, I don't feel like that's a bad thing. I feel like that's what we're here to do, you know, because a person can't always go to a professional. They can't always get to a therapist, or they may not take the time. They may not have time to look up the information and actually understand those concepts. You know, that's just how it is. That's why a lot of times these videos that a lot of us make and put out, just regular everyday people, sharing our stories, sharing our knowledge, our awareness, you know, as long as we make sure that it's accurate to the best of our ability, that's a good thing. Because a lot of times people are busy, they're working, they don't have time to, you know, they may not take time to just really look something up, but if they run across somebody talking on the internet, just scrolling around, they might go, oh, what's this person talking about? Oh, okay, let me stop here and check this out. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But again, that's why I say it's also always good if it catches your attention and it sparks something in your mind that you didn't know. That's great. That's what it's for. But always do your own research. Always double check those things that you hear. Make sure that's accurate. Study up. Build onto it. Take the time. Put out the effort if you want to understand those concepts. So anyway, validation. Okay, validation it's an extremely important thing. I use the term a lot in different contexts and different situations in different ways. Break it down. Valid. Making something valid. Is it valid or is it trash? Is it valid or is it not? Is it not important at all? Okay? Now, it's going to depend on what context you are using or thinking of the term validation in. Do you mean what is validation in a romantic relationship or in a relational sense, as far as with people, family members, friends, romantic situations? Do you mean it in the context of validation of emotions and feelings between relationships, or with coworkers, or validation with people and emotions, and in that way? Or validation, for something to be valid, it means it's important, basically, in the simplest of terms. It means it's real, it exists, it's important. Valid. Not trash, not inaccurate, not false. It's accurate, it's valid, it's important, and it needs to be regarded as such. It needs to be treated in a valid way. It needs to be treated like it's important, like it really does exist, like it really did happen, like those things are important. Okay, that's that. This is my personal breakdown on this, okay? That's how I perceive it, and just depending on what context. So validation, when it comes to that, we've got self-validation. Do we feel valid? And then we have validation in our friendships, our family relationships, and our romantic partnerships. A lot of times you will hear that term a lot in spiritual communities when people are working on their spiritual evolution and growth, as far as validating themselves. You will also hear it in communities where people are working on trauma, people who have survived trauma, childhood trauma, any kind of trauma, abusive relationships, whatnot. You will hear that word a lot, validation. You validate what happened to you. You want to get validation on it, often from the party who inflicted it on you. And a lot of times you will not get that validation, so you have to take it all the responsibility onto yourself and validate it yourself, because chasing validation from an outside source who's reluctant to give it to you is just toxic. It's a trap. It is a drain on your energy, and it's really difficult for you to heal and move on. You stay stuck up under that power of that energy drain of constantly seeking their validation on what they did to you. And you will hear it a lot in those contexts, for sure. The spiritual thing, you'll hear it in relationship stuff, where I see it the most. But validation, that could go for anything. That could go for just about any context, But I see it the most in relationship situations, traumatic situations, where people had a trauma, and say it was a childhood trauma, and the parents act like it never happened, and you want to confront them about it, and you want to discuss it, you want to get some closure, and they keep telling you that never happened, and blowing you off, gaslighting you, making up excuses, whatever. Okay, that's invalidating to you. They are not validating. Either they don't have the emotional intelligence, or they're toxic still. They are not validating what they did. And they're not validating your feelings about it. How it made you feel. How it fucked up your life. How it impacted your life. Whatever. Okay? That's that. So oftentimes when we have been in a situation with someone, even if it's a romantic partner or a friend, and they betray us in some way, or something happens, we go through a trauma with someone, oftentimes we are looking for that person, we're looking for validation on it. Our feelings are hurt, we went through a lot about it, and a lot of times we may be involved with people who are reluctant to validate that shit. Nah, that never happened, or they deny it, or they gaslight it, they blame it on you, turn it all around. Those are very toxic people. And, a lot of times we can get stuck looking for validation in trauma situations like that, betrayals, and it's a trap. We're not going to get that validation. So that's when we would start talking about self-validation and how important it is to know how to validate yourself. This is a big thing in, if you're studying or whatever, you're working on your spiritual growth or your emotional growth and maturity as you go. Self-actualizing, you will work on that and sort of being the best version of yourself that you can be, and realizing your goals and dreams, and sorting out your traumas and the things that hold you back and the thinking patterns that hold you back, and learning to validate the self. Well, it's a very healthy thing that we need to be able to do as we are self-actualizing or working on that. Learning not to seek validation from outside sources too much, because that's another trap. Even if you're not going through a trauma and it's not romantically linked or anything, just say you're just a human being who, we see this a lot in codependency. We see it a lot in people, especially people who have been traumatized. We see it a lot and sometimes in average everyday people. They seek validation from the world. They seek validation. So when we use that term in that context, it would mean that they literally focus on the world and other people, other humans, to tell them that they are valid, that they exist, that they are someone, that they are important, that they matter, that they basically depend on other people for their self-esteem a lot of the time. Yes. And it can be very toxic. It can be rooted in deep childhood wounds for a lot of people. It really just depends on the situation, but that's where you're going to hear the word validation a lot. And validation, and I don't know exactly what they wanted to know about it, but, we have to learn not to seek validation from the outside world too much. And it's normal and natural. Humans want to be recognized. They want to be liked. They want to, sorry, y'all, I'm hating my hair today. Of course, we have to have a certain amount of that. We want to know that we fit in and that we are liked by our peers, that we're loved by our family. Of course, a certain amount of that. And that's going to depend on if you got enough of that in your childhood or not. And if you didn't, then it can leave gaping wounds inside of you, and you will be eternally seeking validation from every human you meet. It'll ruin all your damn relationships. You'll be just so overly needy and so lacking, so empty inside. You will not learn how to manufacture your own validation, your own importance, your own energy inside, your own self-esteem and identity and ability to tell yourself, I'm okay. I care about myself. I love myself. I belong here just as much as the next person. No, I'm not going to go overboard and become a fucking high-level narcissist that thinks my importance, I'm so low and lacking inside that I'm going to overcompensate, and my self-importance is bigger than everyone's, and it means more than anyone's, and I'm just going to shit all over people and stomp all over people because I'm so starving for validation and self-esteem, and all that stuff is tied in. So you have to meet the balances, guys. You have to meet the balances. But validation and sort of what it means to me and my perspective, and depending on the context, I think validation is very important. But, I have some different thoughts in different areas about validation too, okay? I think it's important for people to learn to do it themselves. Definitely not always seeking external validation, because that's going to get you in trouble. That's going to keep you constantly hungry, constantly dissatisfied, constantly at the mercy of what other people think of you. If you can't manufacture that stuff for yourself and learn to do it, if you don't know how, figure it out. Go find somebody that knows and learn from them. take their example instead of hating on them and being jealous of them or resentful of them because they are validating themselves and they've learned to do that, instead of shrinking back and feeling bad about yourself or ashamed or resentful. Learn from them. Look at their example, be inspired by it, and learn from it. Learn how to do it. Start validating yourself. Hey, man. And that kind of shit doesn't come overnight, especially if you were raised in trauma and toxicity and fuckery, child abuse, or fucked up situations. Oh, man, that stuff don't come overnight. Hell no. You have to look for it. You have to look for it. The knowledge. That's right. Whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a mentor, fucking go search it up in books and sit home and study, watch documentary. You have to look for it. A spiritual teacher or something. You have to look for that knowledge. It doesn't just implant itself in your head. But it's important, first of all, to be able to do that for yourself. If not, it's going to affect a lot of people. You're going to hurt other people. They're going to hurt you. It's just a big old mess if you can't learn how to validate yourself. Feel important on the inside. Balanced. Regulated emotions and ego. Not all the way the fuck up here off the fucking charts with your narcissism, but not so empty that you don't have any self-esteem either. Yeah. That's important. Now, it is important, speaking of external validation. Now, here's where it can get confusing and tricky for some people. We don't take one concept and go, oh, okay, that's it. Boom. It's just like that, and that's all there is to it. No. Many layers, many shades, things can get complex. Now, that's one way of looking at self-validation and not seeking too much external validation. But there is a time and a circumstance in certain contexts where getting the external validation is important and appropriate and healthy. For instance, if someone hurts you, they betray you, you're in a situation, they do something and they are the cause of it, they inflict something on you, then typically it would be healthy-minded and appropriate, and it would show that they are a genuine person who cares about you and that they have a pretty decent level of emotional intelligence. If they will accept responsibility for what they did, they will apologize to you, work on changing the behavior, and they will validate your feelings. If they love you, if they care about you, if they're close to you, then they will care about validating your feelings. And in a context like this, it's going to mean when you start expressing your hurt, your anger, your pain of what they did or what happened, then it means you're going to be the bigger person and you're not going to sit there and, I am offended. You're not going to react. Now, here's where we go with having mature emotional intelligence and not so mature emotional intelligence. And we see a lot of narcissism, high narcissism, with the more immature emotional levels. At this point, you're going to be the bigger person and you're going to take one for the team and you're going to validate that person's emotions by listening to their feelings and not snapping, not getting offended, not firing back at them, not resenting them for expressing the anger or the pain, or rehashing the details of what they did to you, what it made you feel like. Instead, you're going to be the bigger person and you're going to listen and let them get it all out. And then you're going to tell them thoughtful things that let them know you heard it and you feel that it's important. You feel inside that whatever harm you brought to them, whatever mistake you made, you feel that it is important, that their feelings are important enough to listen to because you hurt them. It shows them that basically you're taking responsibility for it and you actually feel something in there, that you actually are empathizing and showing some compassion and that you actually feel genuinely bad about what you did, and it likely indicates you probably won't do it again. If you can show some compassion and some empathy, listen to their feelings, and then say things back in return like, I'm genuinely sorry, and don't apologize too quickly. That I'm sorry shit, let's change the subject. That won't fly. That's invalidating. That's not validating. So typically, to validate someone that you're close to, that's what you would do. You would listen to them. You will hear them out. You will understand their anger is valid. It's important because you will know in your brain, I actually did that shit to them. And you will show with genuine, sincere remorse, apology. You will tell them, indicate to them that you won't do it to them again by verbalizing a solution that you have found. This is what I'm going to do next time to prevent this from happening to you again. I won't do it again. And then with your actions, you're going to show in the future that apology was real, and you're not going to do the same behavior to them. But that's pretty much how you validate in close personal situations. If you've wronged someone, then it is emotionally healthy and intelligent, and it's the right thing to do, and it is appropriate at that time to go ahead and validate their feelings. Hey, look, I understand you're angry. I understand you must be really hurt. It makes me feel terrible that this happened. Those types of things. Sometimes you have to use words when you're going to validate someone, but sometimes it could be nothing more than just giving them eye contact, being that intimate, being that able to be that vulnerable with somebody, showing you care. Sometimes it could be something as simple as giving them eye contact, nodding your head. Your body language looks sympathetic, genuinely care. You're genuinely listening. Sometimes it could be something as simple as putting your hand on their shoulder and leaning in with your body language. Maybe not using a lot of words, but even a gesture like that can show humility, compassion. It can show remorse. It can show that you are feeling what they're saying to you, and it is important to you. That is validating someone and their feelings, and that's validation in that context, okay? So these types of things are important. So sometimes receiving external validation is important. When it's appropriate, we need to know when it is appropriate, not just out here seeking it for the hell of it because we're so lacking in it. But if in certain relationships and situations, external validation is appropriate for us to receive and expect from somebody. If someone hurts us, yes, we expect our feelings to be validated. And if they don't, if they constantly invalidate our feelings, oh, no. That's a very bad, toxic situation right there. So we'll finish this up in a bit.